glad you're here today. Today is June 3rd, 2024, and in this video, I'm bringing you information I really don't even want to tell you. I don't even want to make this video. There've only been a couple of videos where I've had this kind of dread before that I've made. This is one of them, and so I can't not tell you this. So here we go. In this video, I have to share interesting intel. Is the best way I can describe it, about the wartime mode we are in. For me personally, I am in wartime preparation, full on. Just not even dabbling, not even do one prep a day, and then have fun. No, I'm doing like sun up to sundown. I'm working. Because I believe the window is shutting very quickly. Now, I'm not sitting here telling you if you cannot prepare, if you are shut in, if you don't have the money. I'm not sitting here saying, well, that you're a sorry loser. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the Lord will take care of you, okay, in whatever way he deems best. I feel called to do what I'm doing. I'm not guilting anybody else who's not doing anything, all right? If you have the means, and if you have the know-how, get ready. And what that looks like, if you are a beginner prepper, you get some beans and rice. Don't worry about storing them to begin with. Just start buying bags of whatever your bean flavor is and whatever kind of rice you like the best. Get them now. That's the first. And cans of soup, cans of chicken, cans of tuna, whatever. That's the first step. And then get on YouTube, and there's a bunch of people that'll teach you how to store it. All right. So that's my tip for the day. Now, here is the intel that I received yesterday when I was at church. Actually, my daughter told me at church, she said, did you talk to this friend of ours? And I said, no, I didn't talk to her about that. And she said, call her. So anyway, she and my friend and I talked on the phone, and she gave me some startling information about the National Guard. Okay. So I'm going to bring you that in just a minute. I am going to, again, read this information from a viewer that's legit, that's sobering and serious. I read it in my last video. If you don't want to hear it again, you can fast forward this, but this is something we need to dissect and let it simmer and let it ponder on it and pray over it, all of that. But I'm going to bring it to you, and then I cannot read this word to you as the Lord has told me, like, no, don't share this with anyone, except I can share one part of this with you. I can say that, on June 1st, 2024, day before yesterday, I was in worship, and I asked the Lord, Lord, you've told me a storm is coming. Lord, you've told me it's going to get bad. You've told me to prepare. You've told me these things in generalities. I'll see it from afar. Can you give me details, Lord? And I was shocked. You see, I have no words. I was shocked on how the Lord responded so faithfully. Because I am not one I don't like violence. I don't like any kind of war thing. I don't like that. So the Lord graciously protects me from visions like that. But he did give me a vision that's somewhat graphic. And then he gave me a sentence or two that I can share with you. Beyond that, I'm sorry, I can't. Not yet. And not until he tells me I can. I just can't. I have to obey. So let's just start with this. At church yesterday morning, through this, that, and the other, came in a friend, a dear friend, told this story. She said, something's going on in our country. And it was like, what are you talking about? She said, my sister, who lives in Arkansas, went to her oncologist appointment because she's recovering from breast cancer. This was a regular kind of appointment, just a follow-up appointment. She goes into the office, sits down, checking in to her appointment, and the receptionist says, oh, I see you've had a change in your insurance since you were here last. And this woman said, no, I have had no change in my insurance. Oh, yes, you have. She said, well, what kind of change are you seeing on the computer there? And the receptionist said, your husband is active duty now. And she said, no, my husband's not active duty. He's National Guard, and he's not active duty right now. This shows that he is. He's been put in active duty. This woman and her husband, who is in the National Guard of Arkansas, had no idea that he had been activated. None whatsoever. So she goes home, tells her husband. He gets on the phone to his commanding officer and says, "What is this? What is going on?" His commanding officer said, "How did you find out?" And so the man told his commanding officer what had happened. And he went, "You're not supposed to know that yet." And he said, "Well, I do, and I'm fixing to call the rest of the platoon and tell them." The commanding officer said, Here's the deal. Here's the deal. On April 19th, you were activated, National Guard. And so everybody was. And you have two choices to choose from. You can either choose to be activated and serve in Russia or on the southern border with Mexico, in Texas. It's your choice. You will be going in, let me make sure I'm right. You will be going in, this will start in August of this year, and you will be serving for 400 days. That is what that man found out. He chose the border of Texas, and then he promptly called up every other person he serves with in the National Guard that serves under him because he's high ranking, and told them what the deal was. Did you hear what I just said? This man is activated in the military, in the National Guard, and didn't even know it. Now, it begs the question, is the border about to be closed? Is something going to happen? Is something going to happen closer to August? What do we just have from now until August, until an event? I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of questions that swirl around with me on that. But that is a bit of intel that you need to know is going on in our country. And these people who graciously and boldly and bravely volunteer to be in our National Guard to protect us, they did it in the dark about it. How can this be? This happened in April. Y'all, it's June. Okay. I gotta just dial it back a little bit. Okay. So there's that. So that happened yesterday. And here's I'm going backwards in my timeline over the weekend. So that happened on yesterday, on June 2nd. On June 1st, after I had been in worship early in the morning from 4 to 6, and this is what the video was about yesterday. All right, I'm going to read this again. I don't care. This is too important to just have one video about it, y'all. And listen, so I'm putting all of this together. That happened to me. It was a chain of events connecting the dots for you right now. All right. So here is this email that I received at 11:02 in the morning on June 1st. All right. June 1st. Here's some more information. After I had asked God for details, the Lord's given me details. All right. So that's just keep that in mind as I read these things to you. This is from a viewer who I know is a legit viewer. All right. It's not just some person I don't know about, some cray-cray or anything like that. It's a legit viewer. This is what this viewer has to say. Hi, Gina. I have interesting intel I wanted to share with you. Take it for what you will, but I think it directly speaks to where we were at on the timeline for a very big war breaking out. So my daughter has a boyfriend that is now active duty U.S. Air Force. He graduated basic training at Lackland Air Force Base 2 weeks ago. We went to the graduation ceremony. The speaker at the ceremony was a colonel at Lackland. In his speech, he said China was the biggest threat to the power of the United States in 80 years. He said that the young men and women that were graduating today would be the ones to fight China to make sure the U.S. stays as the predominant superpower of the world. My daughter's boyfriend had his uncle there, who is an active duty Air Force major. I asked him if the colonel knew something we might need to know about China. He told me that the Pentagon Air Force brass expects the U.S. to be at war with China in 2025. They are preparing accordingly. This last week, I've been at an emergency management conference in Fort Worth. One of the speakers at the session spoke on getting the civilian medical systems across the U.S. to be ready for accepting casualties from large-scale combat operations with near-peer nations, Russia and China. He advised that the military system would be quickly overwhelmed with casualties from such a conflict. Minimally speaking, he said the U.S. hospital system must be ready to accept 1,000 casualties being flown into the U.S. per day for a minimum of 100 days straight. Minimum. 100 days straight. At least 250 out of 1,000 a day would require ICU level critical care. Y'all, if that doesn't turn your blood cold, I don't know what will. That's bad. That's real bad. In the context of asking my Heavenly Father, can you give me details about what's going to come, what's coming? Boom. This is what I believe is what's coming. These wounded would have to be farmed out to hospitals across the nation for care. The problem is that the U.S. hospital system would be quickly overwhelmed as well because most hospitals face full capacity and are still suffering staffing issues. I know this to be true. Not only that, but there are many in the medical field that are in the National Guard and reserves that might not be in those hospitals during war due to being called up. What did I just tell you? My friend at church told me about her husband in Arkansas in the National Guard. I'm filtering hard, y'all. Filtering hard. He suggested that it might be advantageous to be looking at nursing homes and other types of facilities in communities that war casualties could be put into, not to mention of what would happen if we got struck in the U.S. and even more casualties from civilian populations. It would be horrific with shortages of medical care, facilities, medicines, etc. The speaker is prior military medical background, now working medical emergency management for the state and federal systems. Overall, this is still this viewer talking to me. Overall, that is 3 direct warnings of large-scale war with China and Russia I have heard within 8 days of each other. Combine that with what we know the Lord is speaking to us and so many others, and a pretty clear picture begins to emerge. Are you seeing the picture, gang? You are doing well to read the manual on preparing for war. Okay, the Latvian one. That's what he's talking about. I believe more than ever the war will be upon us much sooner than many of us think. I tend to agree. God bless you and your family, blah, 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 and the rest is for me. Okay, so that came at 11 on Saturday a.m. At 4:45 a.m.,